All right, welcome back to the video series with the Wapello County Conservation Board. Today, we get to talk about one of my favorite spring ephemerals. I know we've been talking about a lot of spring ephemerals, but it's a great time to be outside. If you are in quarantine right now and you need a little peace of mind, you need to get out of the house, come take a walk in the woods. Walk through the prairie, see what's happening. It's springtime. And one of my favorite flowers out in the spring is called the Trout Lily. Some people call it the dogtooth violet. Some people call it thousand leaf. Some people call it adder's tongue. It's got a lot of names. Whatever you call it, I call it Trout Lily because the leaves have this mottling on them that looks kind of like the scales of a trout. But my favorite part of it is when it grows, it's actually upside down. And that makes it a little more difficult for some of the pollinators to get into it because they'll have to hang upside down to pollinate. And then those petals, when it's fully in bloom, will just peel back and they'll hang the other direction, and you can see those yellow parts of the plant sticking out there. One of the most interesting things though about this plant is its life cycle, because one of the reasons they call it a thousand leaf plant is these leaves will blanket the forest floor, but you'll have very few blooms. So in the first 2 or 3 years, it starts with just one little leaf. And just for a little bit of perspective, if we compare the size of the leaves that are in front of me from this blooming plant, these guys are pretty small, and that's where it starts. 2 or 3 years, one tiny little leaf is all it makes. And then after that, 2 or 3 more years, maybe you'll get a little bit bigger leaf. And just to show some of the variation in color, you'll get all different variations of mottling on there. So it's kind of a purple or brownish color mottling on those leaves. So they get a little bit bigger. And then at year 6 or 7, finally, you'll get 2 leaves that come out. And this is when it'll finally bloom. So not until it's 6 years old will you find this plant blooming in the woods, which makes it pretty special because most of these plants are going to bloom their first year and it won't be a problem. But these guys have to wait 6 or 7 years before they'll bloom. And all you see then is their leaves. And by the time they decide to spread their seeds, the leaves are gone, they're hard to find. So this time of year, anywhere between February and maybe the end of April, these guys will bloom depending on the spring. They're a little earlier than usual here this year because it's been a little bit warmer. Just like the other flowers we've talked about this spring, these guys are well adapted to live in these woodlands where in the spring they're going to get a lot of light because the leaves aren't on the trees yet, whereas in the summer this would be a very shady area. And while they don't seem like much, Native Americans were known to eat the bulbs of these plants, and deer will eat the leaves. Some animals will eat the bulbs of this plant as well, and it does have very few health benefits, so don't come out and eat it. That's all I'll have to say about that one. And of course, I will end by saying this is a great time to be outside. I know some of you don't get to go to work like we do, but we do have a great place where we can get out, we can get away from people, and we can take a little time in the woods to share it with you, but it's much better in person. Get outside, see what's happening in nature, and just enjoy a walk.